What's up, collective fam? It's your boy Tony the Toys back with a double rigorous resin review for you today. With a new manufacturer that we have never touched on before. Today it's ThinkGeek, which is now owned by our friends at GameStop. So let's take a look at not one, but two different statues, both inspired by the artwork of Jim Lee, everybody's favorite artist, Batman's Catwoman and Joker, 1/9 scale. Let's get it. All right, collective. Bam! Your boy Tony the Toy Rat is back with another rigorous resin for you review for new PVC pre-used or previewed. Now these two are both pre-used, and I think it's really important, really, to touch on for 1 second the necessity of the secondary market. Sometimes we miss our opportunities as collectors to pick up things that could complete a collection, or we want to start a collection and they're no longer available. The secondary market is our way to get there. So I made a new friend this past weekend. Shout out to Zoe Moore, who brought me both of these ThinkGeek 1/9 scale Jim Lee inspired PVC statues. They're DC collectibles. One is the Joker, one is Catwoman, and with no further ado, we're going to crack open this here Catwoman. So, if you guys hadn't seen it yet, this is the ThinkGeek. For you guys who are not familiar, because until recently I was not familiar, and by recently I mean right after I purchased these, right? ThinkGeek was a separate company, but in case you want to yell at somebody, it's now owned by our friends at GameStop. So that being said, with no further ado, I'm ready to crack open the Catwoman. So I don't think I'm going to need my handy dandy scalpel tool since this has been previously opened. Alright, we're just going to crack her out of this sort of nondescripto box here. Ta-da, nothing inside the box. And you know how we do, guys. We're more of a friend to Mother Earth than we are to box keeping. Plus, I don't plan on getting rid of my collection anytime soon, so we need to do what's responsible, and that's recycle. Okay. Alright, guys. This is one of those little suction cup doohickeys. Doohickeys? Doohickeys. Whoops. Whoop. Okay. So it looks like this comes in two pieces here. This is not one of the pieces. This is another piece of plastic. And what do we do with plastic? I just got through telling you. Recycle! Be responsible. Okay, cool. Ooh. Okay. At first glance, I like what I see. Looks like she's got a single peg here, which I am going to set into her base, which has a single peg hole. Yep, you can see on the back here, manufactured by GeekNet. It says GameStop all over it. It is a GameStop exclusive, so I gather that's the only place you're going to be able to find it. Which, I was skeptical, but they're starting to make some halfway decent decisions. Wow, that looks cool. All right, we'll take a look at it together. Again, this is the 1/9 scale Catwoman, inspired by the artwork from Jim Lee from ThinkGeek by our friends at GameStop. And I'm going to set her down right here. We're going to do a full body spin, and then we'll come back and talk about her, and then we'll open up the Joker. Let's go. Alright guys, we've had a full body spin and now we're back and we're going to have a conversation about our friends over at ThinkGeek and what they did with this particular statue. Obviously, Catwoman. Like I said earlier, and I had to look this up because it was nowhere on the box, which is a little disappointing, that it is a 1/9 scale. So of all the statues I have, these are the first of my 1/9 scale statues. They are PVC. She is extra light. You guys have seen the full body spin, so we're going to go directly into the thing that makes the most sense to have a conversation about, because we always start with the same thing, right, guys? And what is that? It's the portrait. The portrait. We always talk about the portrait, because if it doesn't look like who it's supposed to look like, then there's no sense in the purchase, right? Okay. First things first. Let's go ahead and pick her up. Guys, just to note one more time, this is a keyed-in piece. She holds on pretty tight, but if you want to pull her off, you can pull her off. It is 2 pieces. It shows up in just this base, and that's what's on the back, just like that from GameStop. And she's in her pose. There's nothing malleable about her. There are no extra pieces. You simply lock her into her footing and then set her down. Now, with regard to the portrait, again, this is supposed to be the Jim Lee inspired Catwoman. And I think they did a fairly good job of capturing most of those likenesses. For most of us in the culture who are fans, it's easy to say, yeah, that's Catwoman. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, you might claim something else or someone else, but with regard to her surroundings and what they gave her, it would be easily discernible to know that this was Catwoman, a la the cat, just yawning just alongside her. So I will give them the full 3 cheeses on the portrait side of things as we turn back around. Okay, because her face, it's not too hard to do Catwoman. Most of it is covered by, her cat suit. So I'll grant that it was probably easier to do something like this and say easy to get the portrait rather than having to get somebody like, say, Star-Lord and get the facial features just accurate, just perfect. So that being said, still 3 cheeses on the portrait. What do we go after the portrait? Well, costuming. And here again, costuming, I'm going to say they nailed it. They nailed it. Costuming is 3 cheesers. Okay. I take that back. I'm only going to give them 2 cheesers on this, and why? Because I think there might be a missed opportunity here. Now, I look at this belt that is around her back, and she's basically got it wrapped all around her waist like it's a belt. I'm making an assumption. There's no way for me to know for sure, but I am making an assumption that that's the whip. That's her, whip. As cool as it looks on her here, my preference would have been, especially since there's nothing else in her diorama set, my preference would be for her to be holding that whip, and maybe in sort of a whip-like fashion, that motion that would really set this particular statue off. So, okay. She's going to get a 3 for her. I'm sorry, she's going to get a 2 for her costuming. I'm only pulling 1 away because I feel like we had a missed opportunity for the whip tail, which I do believe is represented by this rope belt that she's wearing around her waist at this juncture. So I said, okay. The next is dynamic pose. Guys, is this dynamic or is this museum quality? Does it look like she's posing for a picture or she's actionable at this point? Now, I think you can argue it both ways. I mean, clearly there's emotion here. But let's take a look at the value set of what's around her. They didn't give us much, but they have this. I'm not sure what she's stepping up onto because her foot is outside of that circle. So if it's on a rooftop somewhere, I couldn't tell you. It's not a grate on a street. It appears to be some sort of, I don't know, it could be some kind of portal, some mystical thing. I don't know. That is neither here nor there. We're talking about the dynamic pose, and the dynamic pose on this one is, I'm going to give it just a 2. And only because there is a possibility that she could be in preparation to grab the front of whatever this is and leap forward, and that's her motion. She could be just settling back, which I think is possible because of the way the cat is acting here. That cat looks like it's almost tired. It's yawning. It's just kind of, sorry for that, just kind of yawning in the background. So, I'm just not sure, guys. it was nice enough for me to want it, right, in a collection set. So don't let me smack it down that much. But my job is to give you truth in reviews. So I bought it. Doesn't mean you need to. Again, there's a couple of things already working against it. For me, it's a 1/9 scale. But I let that go. Where I'm really having a problem is in the fourth and final aspect of what we always look into, and that is the diorama portion of it. What did they give us on this diorama to tell a story, right? And ultimately, as a collector, that's what I want. I want to set this on a mantelpiece or a shelf somewhere and say, let it tell its own story. And what is this story telling you? Is there a depiction like McFarlane Toys has begun doing with their comic accurate page punchers where they're mimicking the front cover or something inside of one of the comic books that has been released, which is an intelligent method, I think, overall. But that being said, this means, without having context, that they had an opportunity to do whatever they wanted with Catwoman. And this was their ultimate depiction. Now that I have a tiny problem with. There's 1,000,000,002 images of Catwoman. And I'm not saying this is horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but for me, this is ThinkGeek's entry into the DC market a la Catwoman, and this is what they chose to do, with it seeming like they were capable of doing whatever they wanted, because it's not referencing any kind of comic book or any kind of specific film or comic or cartoon. So that being said, maybe a slight lack of creativity where that's concerned. Also, as far as this diorama, this base, I get some of the conceptual ideas. They wanted to have a place where you could put this little kitty cat, yawning on the side here, which is rather gratuitous. It almost feels like it should have been littered with cats all throughout this piece. Like there should have been cat, 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 cat. And then maybe there would have been something that gave me an idea that maybe this was a puddle of water that they were walking in and amongst, and maybe this is a kind of fountain that's off right now, and she's just letting the cats traipse through, this area. I think that could have been a really cool idea. Someone should be calling me first, sounds like. But
could you try again?
No. In any case, stupid watches want to keep talking to me while I'm in the middle of talking. I think it's a pretty cool statue, guys. Overall, I'm going to give it a 2 cheeser. I think I wouldn't pay more than $35 for the statue right now. I think if you paid $35, you probably paid at the top of the market for where this was ever going to land. Unless you're going to have a collector who's trying to finish up an entire set. This particular one if you're a Catwoman fan and you're looking for the next great piece, I might suggest you keep looking for some of the other brands who might have a better handle on how to best display a Catwoman piece. And we'll leave it at that. So 2 cheeses for me all the way around on my first of the ThinkGeek DC Jim Lee inspired statues at the 1/9 scale. Next up, we're going to Joker. So, with no further ado, let's put him on the chopping block. Let's go! What's up, collector fam? It's your boy Tony the Toy Rat, back with the second of 2 rigorous resin reviews for new PVC, pre-used or previewed, and this is a pre-used Joker from our friends at DC and ThinkGeek, which is now owned by GameStop, in case you're wondering. And I needed a Joker to add to the Batman section of my ever-growing collection of superhero figures and statues, which see blim behind me. With no further ado, as I promised, here comes number 2. It is Batman's The Joker. Okay, collector fan, with no further ado, it is time to crack open our friend the Joker here. Now, this has been previously opened, so no need for my handy-dandy scalpel tool, which I love to use so much, but this time's unnecessary. Okay. I'm gonna crack open our box. For those of you who are box collectors, as I showed you with the previous Catwoman statue, there is nothing inside this box that is pretty, or for that matter, keepable. Holy crap! For that matter, keepable. So I would probably just do what you should do with all of the boxes that you know you're not going to keep anyway, and recycle, please. Help Mother Earth. And since the plastic is already off, do the same with this. Recycle it. Yeah? Okay. Okay, cool. Just like the Catwoman, this Joker comes in exactly 2 pieces. I will have some things to say. In the meantime, I'm going to put him on the base here, as I think he's supposed to be. Okay, we'll try and get this right here. Is there a cut button on this thing? I don't know which side to put him up on. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's definitely that way. Okay, yep. Okay. I'll tell you what. They definitely want it to stay in. Once it's in, huh? I think. Oh, shit. Okay, well, give us a second. We'll put this back on and give you a full spin. And then we'll talk about it some more. That was silly looking. Okay, collector fan, we have returned. We're back, and we're chatting up the Joker statue from ThinkGeek, which is now owned by our friends at GameStop. That is our guy right here. He comes in 2 pieces. He is keyed down by the foot, and let me tell you, it is tight as all get out to push him in there. But once he's in there, he's not going anywhere. So, just so you know, he's very secure in that space. I'm going to hold on to him anyway. Just so you know, that is what the bottom of the base looks like. The Joker Statue Limited Edition. It doesn't tell you what number in the Limited Edition set that it is. So that's slightly problematic. But it's a Limited Edition run. In just the same way you can see here as the base that they used for our friend Catwoman, they mimicked what they did, and all they did was throw some crates on the top of the base. And I'm just gonna say, man, that's kind of lazy. So either they're trying really hard to create a very similar looking base for all of the characters that they're doing in this Jim Lee inspired lineup. By the way, I did wind up finding out that these are could be direct mimicry of work that is in the Hush series by Jim Lee. So hopefully by the time this thing airs, I'll have found where those comics are located, and I can at least give you some context as to why the characters are doing what they're doing in these particular scenes. But as you can see, this is a typical Joker looking crazy. Looks like he's in the midst of a monologue, right? Like, "Hi, Joker," kind of thing. That's quick Joker rendition. Don't you dare. I wonder about my choices sometimes. Here's what I will say. Obviously, we go for the portrait first. It's always the portrait. It's the portrait every single time, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, you know. So it looks like the Joker. He's got the green hair. He's got the red lips. He's got sort of an elongated jaw. You see Joker drawn that way very often. Not all the time, but often with a longer jaw, and the wider smile. Here he's got his hair sort of pushed back into a 6 head, and the rest of his his locks of green hair is sort of pushed back and gelled, slicked back. And he's got these 2 over curls that are rolling over the top of his wrinkly white forehead. And he looks like he's either snapped his fingers or is, again, in the midst of a very interesting story that he's regaling maybe the followers that are waiting for instruction for what to do next from the Joker. I will say again, this is my second of. This is the other one we just opened up, which is Catwoman, and this is the second of the 1/9 scale. This is the second of my ThinkGeek statues. I will say from a costuming perspective, they nailed that as well. It's a very typical Joker costume. Even without the hair, if you just showed me the costume, I would know it's the Joker. So I would say that they nailed that wholeheartedly. On top of which, we'll say that this, to me, is a more dynamic stance. We're going to jump right back into that. And the dynamic stance here is more dynamic to me because it looks like he's in an actionable moment. Like he is like, yeah, he just bent down to tell this story. And he's very animated with his hands in his face. So for the portrait, I'm going to give it 3 cheeses. For the costuming, 3 cheeses. For dynamic pose, 3 cheeses. That's a 3 cheese statue. The only thing I really don't like about this particular statue, if I'm being honest with you, is the diorama. Here again, we're not telling much of a story. I will need to investigate further into the Hush series to determine whether or not these boxes are representative of a specific moment in time. But even if they are, it's sort of nondescript. It needs to have more character to the scene. And just adding wooden boxes, he could be, getting a shipment at the shore or in a warehouse somewhere. And I guess maybe that's the thought, is to sort of leave it ambiguous. But I would say that they, and by they I mean ThinkGeek, should maybe spend a little bit more time and attention to detailing out some of these diorama scenes and understand that it's not just a base, right? A diorama isn't a base. A diorama is there to help tell a story. What is the story it's telling? Are you leaving it up to me? Or are you telling the story? That's a pretty good question. Overall, if you keep the cost to $35 and under, and I'm sure you can with these 2 statues, I would tell you that they are worth adding to your collection. Both of them look really cool. I've seen much worse be done. Again, you will have to think long and hard about the scale of the stuff that you guys are interested in seeing because this is 1/9. In the meantime, they're going to go on the shelf. Different locations, but in the Batman area. And until then, it's your boy, Tony the Toy Rat. And this time we're for DC Comics, ThinkGeek, and GameStop. And our friends, the Joker and Miss Catwoman. And I am out. Go get you some.